What's up, Black Man Lab?
What is up?
What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? It's a beautiful, beautiful, resistant evening for Black August. We have our Black August panel, which is going to be very powerful. We commemorate Black August as Black Man Lab, as Let Us Make Man, and as black men in this space. And so we're looking forward to this conversation. I'm gonna turn it over to Brother Marty so we can welcome everybody into the space. But I'm really fired up and focused on what we're about to engage in tonight. This is gonna be a strong revolutionary ride.
Absolutely, Molly, and welcome everybody, as Molly said, to our safe and sacred space for Black men. But with us being virtual now, we are, inviting everybody into this space. So today we will have a super strong and powerful conversation, and I'm looking forward to us having that engagement. Before I get started, though, Molly, I wanna just bring something up that since we're in Black August, I think it's appropriate for us to celebrate some special Black love, and that is you and my sister Jane Johnson Davis last week celebrating 25 years of marriage, which is an accomplishment in today's day and age, especially for folks of our age. So congratulations to you guys, and it has been a pleasure watching you guys, grow as a couple and continue to fight on as a couple for Black liberation. So thank you for that, man, and again, congratulations, special to me, of course. So yeah, some of our traditions that we have here with Black Man Lab, we do to begin the session every week is to make sure that we are getting ourselves in a space that we are centered and we are ready to accept the knowledge and information that is given by this panel. So we do that every week in a couple of ways. One of which is my brother Fred Parham, who frequently co-hosts this event with me, is great at getting us, in a space of the right mind. So, Brother Fred, I want to bring you in if you can help to get us centered.
Yeah, brothers. As Miley said earlier, it's a great month, and tonight we're gonna give voice to the power of this revolutionary ride, as Miley called it. So today, man, I just want to make a special point to speak to the young people in my portion, just about how, I've gotten a couple of calls and young folks are stressing out, man, getting ready to go back to school, college and high school level. And so I just want to echo and elevate the need for us to be present in the moment and really discern and stay focused on what our goals are. And so one way we try to remind the family of that here at Black Man Lab is to go through this breathing exercise where I'll just do a countdown and then we'll get you guys centered and focused on this moment, which is of course the most important one. So on 3, 2, 1, inhale and exhale. This time we're gonna go a little slower. And this time we're gonna focus our energy, man, on being open on tonight, receiving some great wisdom and connecting ourselves going forward and moving our people and families ahead. So last time, 3, 2, 1, focus, exhale. Man, ready to go, y'all. Let's go, guys.
Man, appreciate you, Brother Fred. And that big, deep inhale and exhale, we really got to do these days, right? So thank you for that, man. The other piece that we do is we like to connect with all those that help to get us here in the first place, right? Those shoulders that we stand on, those incredible ancestors that we have that went through some trials and tribulations that helped us to even be in this space today. So with that, I'm going to bring in Brother Jared, my man who will help us to get to our ancestor space.
All right, Jared. Brother Marty, thank you, brother, and thank you for our panelists tonight. And this is going to be a strong conversation, one that our ancestors will be proud of course. And we like to bring the ancestors into our hearts and minds. We like to memorialize them inside of our hearts and minds. So we're going to take a moment to think about those great historical and international ancestors, and we want to bring them into our memory right now. So take about 3 seconds to bring them into your memory. And then everybody raise your fist, and everybody say Ashe.
Ashe.
Now we're going to think about those ancestors here in on these lands that brought us to where we are, and bring them into our hearts and minds as well. So think of some of the ancestors that helped us to do all of the great work we needed to do right here. Give you 3 seconds. Now everybody raise your fist, and everyone say Ashe.
Ashe.
And lastly, let's think of those ancestors that actually run through your own, the blood runs through your own veins. Those who created you. Just think of some of your own family ancestors who've gone before us and brought us here to where we are for this conversation even today. So let's bring those ancestors into our hearts and minds. 3 seconds. And everybody raise your fist and say Ashe 3 times. Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe. Ashe. Oh. Thank you, Brother Jared. I appreciate it, man. I think we're ready to be really deeply engaged in a great conversation this evening. Normally, I'd lead into the introductions of folks, but Malik, I want you to go ahead and introduce the panel.
Well, the beauty is I've had a chance to get to know these brothers in really powerful ways. I want to start with Brother Eddie Conway, one of our former political prisoners, former member of the Black Panther Party in Baltimore, revolutionary thinker, worker, and I just want him to come and share his first recollections of participating and commemorating Black August, and just give us a few minutes before we also hear from Baba Kwame Kalimara, who is one of our elders here in the Atlanta metro area, and has been just one of the most consistent people that I know around, and disciplined people that I know around loving and working in the interests of Black people for many, many years, and has always been super supportive of the work that we've attempted to do, and corrective when needed, as an elder should. And so we'll begin with Brother Conway, and then have Baba Kwame come. And then we got two, younger, bright stars who do work both in the music space, which is Brother Zayd, I consider him like a younger brother here. When I got here, I've been in Atlanta 20 years. His parents are been in the movement for years. He's been through that whole process and has used hip hop to try to amplify the message of the new African nation, of Black struggle, or that RBG, every aspect of our movement around consciousness. And then Brother Cliff Albright is a practitioner, a brother who just essentially has taken his revolutionary teachings and has invoked them and brought them into spaces that some of us think, are not always revolutionary spaces, like voting. But he brings clarity around how voting and community organizing go hand in hand, and how it's really about building power. And he is one of the people who, in the work that they do, is just incredibly courageous, because they riding out in communities outside of 285, in rural areas where we know we don't have the same kind of protections. So this is some modern day freedom riding that Brother Cliff and Black Voters Matter do. So those are the four. I think I've done a little brief introduction. I'm gonna let them give any additional, political grounding that's needed, so they can give the context of their comments. But if we could start with Brother Eddie Conway, coming straight from Bmore, Baltimore. Come on in, Brother Conway.
You're muted, Brother Conway.
Allow me, well, yes, okay, all right, I'm unmuted. Okay. No, I was saying I miss y'all. I'm sorry I haven't been able to get down there. Obviously, it's not safe for me to travel at this time, but I'm still coming. I will be there, right? I guess the important piece for me of Black August is that when George got killed, myself and about 38 comrades was on lockup. We were on lockdown in a segregated unit. There's about 400 people there all total. What we did that day, obviously, when we found out George had got killed, we had a memorial service that night, and the whole entire 400 people in our section stayed quiet while we did political education. And we didn't talk because that was the very day, that was August 21st. We didn't talk about Black August. What we talked about was the warrior spirit in our people, from the continent to the boats to slavery, South America, Caribbean, so on. When you read our history, you always read about the enslavement, the conditions, and so on. You rarely get the opportunity to read about the warrior spirit that has been running through our entire race from day one. That spirit caused 10 million people to die on the continent, or 10 or 15, different scholars have different numbers, to die on the continent resisting this whole slave process. It caused another 10 or 15 million people to get dumped in the ocean. And so there's an ocean of bones there. And most of those bones are not just from people that had died during the shipping, but most of those bones are from rebellious warriors, men and women who fought the passes and either got thrown overboard or got killed on the ship and thrown overboard. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
For a point of clarity for our young brothers, because you know we have a lot of young brothers.
Okay.
When you refer to George, if you could just give a little background as to George. We're talking August 21st, 1971, right?
Okay, yes. Okay. All right. Got you.
How you were captured as well. Just a little historical context for our young brothers.
Okay. Well, I was locked up. I got locked up in the aftermath of a Panther police shooting in Baltimore. One police got killed, one got wounded, and one got shot at or something. And they rounded us up, the leadership. They actually locked up 2 Panthers on the scene. Later on, they accused me of ordering the event. They couldn't make it stick, but they put an informant in my cell and end up making it stick. I ended up getting life in 30 years or something like that. So in prison, there was already like 100 Panthers. They weren't official Panthers in terms of a chapter, but they were Black men rebelling, just like George Jackson. And they wanted to be Panthers. And when I walked in there, they forced me to train them and educate them and help them get organized. And as a result of that, we made great strides in terms of changing the conditions that we were living in. But in the process of that, a number of us kept going on lockup. And so we were on lockup when George Jackson was killed in Soledad. Well, actually it was San Quentin George Jackson was killed in. at the adjustment center. But we had been following what had been going on in California, and we had been following the organizing. Attica actually didn't occur until a couple of days later, a couple of weeks later, in fact. But we knew we were connected with Ben Chavers in North Carolina, who was organizing the Wilmington 10, sisters that were organizing. We were connected around the country. So when this happened, it hit us pretty hard. And so we did have a memorial service and political education. And that's what I was talking about in terms of looking at our history as warriors. Every people developed warriors, and obviously not just in the Black Panther Party, but warriors were developed throughout that whole period. Black liberation movements to my dogs. Come here, Chunky. Chunky, come here.
The Black Man Lab, you know, it's real.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that. My dogs are just out of control, right?
Baba, let me ask you another clarifying question.
Okay.
At the time of Brother George Jackson's murder and assassination in San Quentin, was he holding a office within the Black Panther Party at that moment within the institution, just so the people kind of understand?
Yes, George Jackson was our field marshal in among the prison systems across America. So in fact, he was the field marshal in charge of the group that we were working with in the Maryland Penitentiary. And of course, that's obviously one of the reasons why he was assassinated. Similar assassinations that had took place with Fred Hampton, with a number of Black Panthers and a number of Black Panther leaders. So it hit us hard, but at the same time, we used it to educate. And then, of course, out in Oakland, it developed, Black August developed. And I'm sure you got a historian here somewhere that's going to fill us in on that. But that's I personally was invested and involved in that period and in that activity. So.
Appreciate you. Thank you for giving the context from being behind the walls and what in that moment of history that we are now here in 2020 continuing to lift up. I want to bring in Baba Kwame Kalimara, who again is a longtime freedom fighter and organizer, for him to provide some context from those that began to organize outside of the walls around Black August, and when some of him and his comrades began to spread Black August to the larger community outside of the penal system. So Baba Kwame, can you come in?
I've successfully unmuted myself, and I'm going to seek your guidance in terms of making certain that you rail me in terms of being able to be responsive to the needs of the Black Man Lab. And I want to commend you and all of your warriors in terms of the work that you do with young men. And I have to admit, sometimes I'm often fearful in terms of what kinds of teachings we are sharing with our young men, because we don't want to create toxic relationships. However, I do want to go and address, at least to some degree, some background to lend a little bit more context. I'm one of the co-founders of the New African Peoples Organization, which we've been in existence since 1984, and the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement since 1988. And I've been involved in the New African Independence Movement since 1969. And when we talk about Black August, we might find this interesting, is that I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. So I know San Quentin, I know Marin County, and if we study our own personal history, as well as our collective history, there's always lessons that we need to learn. Now, I have been in jail several times. I've not been what I would consider to be a prisoner of war or political prisoner, but my first jail experience, I think, is instructive. I was at the San Francisco County Courthouse and Jail, and in that facility, Rochelle McGee, who is perhaps one of the longest prisoners currently, who happened to be Angela Davis's co-defendant, it was a hearing. And I went on to the hearing, and this is where I guess the lesson is for all of us, and that is you need to pay your parking tickets, because what they did was they checked my identification, found out that I had a outstanding parking ticket, and I was in jail. That was my first experience. You know, like I said, going to hear and observe what was going on with Rochelle McGee. Another thing I want to share is that this is going with, obviously, we know that August the 7th was just around the corner where Jonathan Jackson, a number of the people were killed in terms of trying to free some brothers. In, I believe it was 1973, I was at University of San Francisco Kendrick Hall School of Law, and I actually argued some cases as part of a criminal defense network. And the judge I had to argue before was Gary Thomas, who happened to be the district attorney, who was also paralyzed at the event. So I've got some sort of personal upfront experiences relative to that, but I do want to get back to our purpose. Brother Conway talked about George Jackson. Well, George Jackson came into my radar based on the book, Soledad Brother, The Prison Letters of George Jackson, which were very powerful. And I think in many respects, it was a foundation for what would later be the development of the Black August resistance observation. Brother George was a member of the Black guerrilla family, which was founded in 1966. He and brother by name of George Lewis and W.L. Knowlton were all incarcerated at San Quentin Prison in Marin County, California. And what's important about the Black guerrilla family is that we need to recognize that there are people who are behind the wall and who are incarcerated who have either developed consciousness while in prison, or had a sense of consciousness that needed to be tweaked and developed while in prison. And these brothers began to read and study, and what they consider themselves to be is basically Black Marxist Leninists. So they read everything from the Mao's Red Book to whatever, but also some nationalism was there. They were inspired by Marcus Garvey, and the fact that Marcus Garvey in the 1920s built the largest Black organization that that existed and can't, there's no contest even right now today, had anywhere between 6 million and 8 million membership. And so the Black guerrilla family really began to do a lot of educating of brothers, trying to develop some political consciousness. And it was I think that was, I think one clear foundation, but we can't separate Black August resistance without understanding that there were precursors. We know that the 1960s were intense. You had the people like Willie Ricks, Mukasa Dada, and Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture demanding Black power. They were in the streets in Alabama and Mississippi. They were challenging the fact that our folks didn't have the power to vote. They were reacting to everything from poverty to crime to police brutality, drugs, and other such things, and as well as COINTELPRO was alive and well, making certain that there'd be these kind of contradictions. So when Brother Conway talked about Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, talking about the assassination. I should say this too, is that in terms of Black August resistance, it was Katari Galton who actually was the architect of Black August. He said there's some things that we need to do. We need to study our history and our culture. We need to fast and be politically fit. Those were sort of like the real foundations of Black August. And Watani Te'ema would often say that with respect to the fasting, it meant that the commissary wasn't happening. When you go in the jail, everybody needs some commissary, put some money in those machines. And so that was it. But studying and fasting honed a discipline that I thought was very important. Kadari Galton said there were a lot of other things besides the fact that George Jackson was assassinated in August. You had, for example, we know that the sister did the 1619 project, so you had the arrival of the first enslaved Africans. I think it's important to say first enslaved because we were here on the American shores long before 1619. But also Gabriel Prosser in 1800 had the rebellion in August. Nat Turner rebellion in August. Henry Highland Garnet in the mid 1800s, the call for a enslaved rebellion was in August. The March on Washington was in August. Watts Rebellion was in August. Move bombing was in August. Marcus Garvey was born in August. W. Du Bois transition in August. There's a whole bunch of stuff. The RNA 11 shootout in August of 1971 was in August. I mean, there was just a lot of things, but there's one thing that I wanted to make mention because you all began to talk about the Ashe, which is the Yoruba word for power. When I came into the African independence movement, there were two things that really shed light on us, and that was the Palmares in Brazil, who fought off the Portuguese for well over 100 years, but also the Haitian Revolution. And many people don't realize on August the 14th of 1791, there was a voodoo ritual called Boakeman that a sister by the name of Cecile Fatima led the folks into a blood ritual, and she was assisted by Bookman-Duty. Everybody knows about Bookman-Duty, but don't know that was a sister that was the one in charge. And one of the sayings that they have is "Aye bobo," "Aye bobo," "Aye bobo," means basically the same thing as Ashe and Sa, and with respect to the people of Ghana and the Yoruba Ashe. So it means all power, just like amen for those folks who are Christian. All I'm really trying to point out is that Black August really took traction in the late 1970s and early 80s with the folks out here on the street who really understood that there was a linkage between what is going behind the wall and out there. And I see you basically, holding me down and saying you want to get something else in, so get it in.
Baba, thank you for that.
Put the fire out.
Baba had to let it go. He had to let it go, and it is important because he walked through August. So I think it's very profound that we understand that August has been a month of resistance, of births of some of our great resistors and organizers. And so thank you for the historical context, Baba. I want to bring in a young brother who really was born into the movement, a part of a lot of the New African Independence movement, youth formations as he was coming up. Mom and dad just, have been totally committed, and they're comrades of Baba Kwame's. Brother Zayd, come on in, brother, and share your work and how you have tried to use your music to enhance and amplify Black August. So come on in, brother, and say what's
going
happening.
on. Free the land.
Free the land.
I'm gonna do it like a real rapper. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you, brother.
Come on.
All right, man. So, man, basically, yeah, like you said, man, I came up in the movement. I came up in a family that was organized. So for me, it took me a minute to understand that this ain't the norm. You know what I mean? Like I grew up not in the Boy Scouts of America, but in the New African Scouts, and that was all I knew. I didn't, go to the Asians to learn martial arts. We had our own combat system called the African Institute of Martial Arts. So when I was learning martial arts, it was always under the umbrella of what being an African was, and that was all I knew. So me, I like to say that I was spoiled, you know what I'm saying, just to play on the word, so to speak, by just being raised this way. So when I started getting out and gaining my own consciousness of myself and who I was as a man and all that kind of thing, and you go out and you test, your knowledge, you test how you grew up out in the world, it was a real test to me, you know what I mean? So I got kind of sidetracked, and then when I went to Cuba, when I got a little bit older than that, I kind of reeled myself back in. I went out there and I saw that I actually went out there for a Black August concert, right? That was put on by my godmama, Nahanda Abiadun, rest in peace, who's a great ancestor of ours. And just dealing with Black August, we went out there and she put on this Black August concert. And, we had Dead Prez down there, we had Common down there. That year I went. Dream Hampton was down there, as DJ Tony Touch and some host of other folks. And that's when I kind of started reacclimating myself to what it meant to be a revolutionary, just being out there. Keep in mind, in Cuba, they just had previously had their revolution. I went out there like in 2000, they just had their revolution in the mid 60s or something like that. So it's, relatively fresh. So you go out there and it's just a revolutionary spirit that you could feel. It's like what patriotism is to America, revolution and everything that comes with that is to Cuba. So you can feel it. Like when you go out there, you can feel the energy. And so I felt the energy, and it made me want to just be a different kind of artist. And so that's when I say that I kind of, I really reinvested myself in our community and what it meant to be a new African and all of that. And it took me just going out there and just kind of being submerged in the revolutionary culture that I saw in Cuba to really see where I stood in the States and what I could mean to hip hop in the States and all of that. So from there, my content and my music changed. And then when that happened, I felt like I had found my purpose. I felt like the way I grew up, everything I had been through growing up, everything I learned growing up, and then just being a part of this, what they call the hip hop generation, was a perfect mix, was a perfect intersection for me, for everything that I had to offer as far as growing up in a family of activists, and then also being a hip hop artist, and also being the age that I was. So for me, it started to make me see that power of hip hop. And then when you look at Frantz Fanon and how his biggest thing was language, and how our oppressor uses language to really oppress us, and how the first thing that the oppressor uses is language. And so when you think about that, and when you think about that, how it relates to hip hop, and how our whole thing is words, our whole thing is sneaking a message in to where you can get it creatively. We have the power, like hip hop music, generally speaking, people that put words together and make, one word mean another thing all together. Like, we defeat our oppressor just by having this weapon. And the whole thing is, if we realize that, and then not only realize that, but realize what we up against as a people, and not only that, realizing that we have a possible victory in our sights and everything that entails and what that could mean for us as a people. I mean, it's like, we know what we can do. So that's what I realize now. I realize how powerful hip hop really is. I realize why hip hop has been attacked the way it is, because if it is something that can be beneficial to the people, if it is used as a weapon, like Mutulu Shakur always tells us to do, using hip hop as a weapon against our oppressor, then it's a very effective weapon. It's one of the most effective weapons, more than a preacher, more than violence and, going out blasting on somebody in the name of revolution, whatever have you, more than, me sitting up trying to just preach to you all day and talk to you all day. I could put a song on. I could put a nice beat that you're definitely going to bob your head to. I could put some words together that's going to break through all the bullshit that you've been taught and pierce, the brainwashing that we all experience as people. We living in a society of white supremacy. So every day as a black man, we fighting that battle. We wake up and we got to make sure that we, use everything that we get from Black August to keep ourselves alive as far as discipline. So, in my mind, hip hop is our biggest, best tool that we can use. And that's why it's attacked. That's why it's, I feel like, so misunderstood, because
let me hit you.
I know, and they go ahead.
I need you to clarify just a couple things, because you grew up in the movement and you mentioned two names, and I want you to give a little context. First, your godmother in Cuba, who is now an ancestor. I'd like for you to explain how she became a political exile, and then you just referenced Shakur. If you can again tie him to the Shakur family and to and that he's currently a political prisoner. So if you give a little context, we just want to make sure that everybody understands the depth of your relationship with these people who have sacrificed it all, right? They've sacrificed it all, their lives, their families, to forward our struggle. So if you would talk about those two.
I mean, you said it, they sacrificed it all. We talking about one brother in Mutulu Shakur who's, been in jail for 30 plus years. So when you talk about sacrifice, it don't get no bigger than that. And you talk about a sister, Nahanda Abiodun, who sacrificed it all. She had children, she had a life, but she chose to give up all of that for us, for other people that sometimes she didn't necessarily know. And I say that she gave her life for us. She passed away last year. And, in Cuba, they call her the godmother of hip hop, of Cuban hip hop. And the work she did prior to being what they call the exile, and just everything that entailed. She was, I guess, charged with helping Mutulu Shakur liberate a Brinks truck. That's what their charge was. That's what they were being charged with. And she had to do what she had to do to stay free, and that's what she did. And that's the decision that she made. And I feel like if she didn't make that decision, a lot of things wouldn't happen. We wouldn't have the connection to, Cuba that we have as far as hip hop is concerned. And when you talk about sacrifices being made, that's a hard decision to make when you decide to leave your son and your daughter for a bigger picture. And that's what I think is lost in all of this work that we do, is the fact that people made decisions that a lot of times you wouldn't even think to make these decisions. It wouldn't even be a consideration for you. And so when you think about it in those terms, some of the sacrifices that Mutulu has made, some of the sacrifices, all the sacrifices that Nahanda made, I mean, it's really some superhero shit. I mean, like I said, you don't even think to make these decisions. I had a conversation with somebody one day about just levels, when you talk about levels to this shit. And, I believe that everybody is not meant to go to jail for this. Everybody's not meant to die for this. Everybody has their positions. that they have to play as far as our struggle is concerned. And so when you think about it like that, and you think about the decisions that they made and the level that they, played this game on, I mean, you have to support them. We have to have Black August and make sure their names is ringing in the streets. They deserve that. They made decisions that, like I said, the normal person wouldn't even think to make. So
I appreciate that, and I know the young ones appreciate it because there are certain names in our history that everybody knows, right? But then there are those who have been, especially in terms of what Dr. Conrad Worrell would describe our wing of this struggle, from the folks that have been on this path, those names that are not often called. So I appreciate you lifting those names up and then sharing. Before we move to Brother Cliff, you dropped some music recently. Why
yes,
now?
Sir.
And what did you drop, and how can people hear what you dropped and its relationship to Black August?
Yeah, my latest song is called Back to It. It's on iTunes, it's on Spotify, and it's basically a song and a movement to get people back to whatever greatness they felt like they lost, and it's a perfect time. Black August is for me a re-energizing, recharging time. So we use Black August for that. And so the song was to, inspire people to do just that, get back on whatever, greatness they felt like they lost, whatever, goal they feel like they fell off of, and we all fall off, and it's time to get back to whatever, you feel like you can do and that you need to get back to. So yeah, just, tap into it, and use it for motivation. Use it as a tool. That's what I make my music for. It's a tool to get you back on whatever it is, and we all can be better and greater than we were yesterday. So I don't care if you think, you perfect, you own your shit, whatever, let's take it to another level even bigger than that. And that's, what the songs are about.
No doubt. I appreciate you. Don't go nowhere. We're going to back.
I appreciate you.
No doubt. We're getting ready to bring in Brother Cliff, but I think Baba Kwame, did you have an update on Brother Matulu you wanted to share?
No, I just wanted to elaborate in terms of the significance of Nahanda Abiodun being a political exile, not being able to return home. And I wanted to make that very clear, but also in terms of Matulu. I mean, one of the charges that he was convicted of was on the liberation of Assata Shakur, who was liberated on November the 2nd of 1979. But the thing that I really want people to be very clear, he's not a political prisoner, he's a prisoner of war. And he, like Sekou Odinga, did not participate in their criminal trial. They argued that the US empire, the state, had no jurisdiction because they were citizens of the captive colonial nation of New Africa, the Black Belt South. And be very clear, that I think is significant, not to participate in your defense. They said, I'm here, I'm a political prisoner. State, do what you want to say, do what you got to say, but we're going to put you on trial. And all I'm really trying to say is that with all the skilled lawyers we have, they could have very well beat the case, but they chose the significance of honoring the nation and honoring their commitment as warriors and soldiers in this war that exists here in the U.S. empire. So that's basically what I wanted to, to put out.
Thank you, Baba. We appreciate that political clarity and clarity around the significance of that sacrifice. We want to bring in Brother Cliff. Brother Cliff Albright, Black Voters Matter. Brother Cliff organizes in ways that put his life and at risk on a regular basis. Brother Cliff, you gonna come on in?
Hey, thank you, Molly. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be on this panel, with these brothers that you have here. And once again, doing what you do, just kind of the way that you span the generations, just this panel is like a perfect example of, how this is an intergenerational struggle. And we got folks, from the clarity of Baba Kwame and Brother Eddie to, the clarity from Zayd, right? And so, thank you for pulling this together. The work that I do with Black Voters Matter, I feel like, and it's kind of some of the ways that all this is connected is even represented on this panel, because I always say, we're a power building organization. We believe building power in our communities, and that includes communities in cities, but also communities in urban areas. I mean, in rural areas, like we talked about before, places where you got all kinds of racial injustices going on that don't get a lot of attention. In fact, just last night, we learned about another brother get shot in one of these rural Georgia communities, right? Brother Julian Lewis, I believe is his name, shot in Screven County, just driving at 60 years old, just driving his little Nissan Sentra, and gets shot up by these troopers. And so, when we do this work and when we travel around to these rural communities, that's resistance, and even in the context, you mentioned this contradiction of how, we engage in this work, which is, it's mobilizing voters, and on one hand, it's getting folks to participate civically, and some might say, well, how is that resistance? Because, you participate in the process that we know wasn't made for us. But at the end of the day, any process of building power is an act of resistance, right? Any process by which we decide that we're going to take control of our communities is an act of resistance. And so I even did a post the other day, like just kind of reflecting on when Bill Clinton came all out his mouth and had the nerve to mention our, brother Kwame Ture, previously known as Stokely Carmichael, when he just came all out of left field, trying to throw shade at him for absolutely no reason other than, white supremacy. When he did that, I did a post, just kind of reminding folks, you can't understand the work that we do with Black Voters Matter if you don't understand the work that Brother Kwame Ture did in the Black Belt, in Lowndes County, with the party that used the Black Panther symbol, even before the Ultimate Panthers, that we were just talking about, even before they used the Black Panther symbol, so the connections between all this stuff, because at the end of the day, what it all had in common is that we're trying to build power, and that we're resisting those who would see us dead in the process. And so, just in general, we view, and I view the work that we do as very much an act of resistance on a daily basis, 365 days out of the year. But in Black August, and in the moment that we're in right now, it's especially the case, because what we're seeing right now, and what we're trying to do is really merge these worlds of like this political mobilization and power building, and this issue that's at the heart of Black August, which is this issue of mass incarceration, right? And so, we're trying to raise issues around brothers and sisters behind the wall, and how they get their rights restored, right? Which includes voting rights, but it includes so many other fundamental rights that are taken away from our folks, right? When they're sent away, whether that's housing rights and job rights and just so much else, right? And so we're trying to really elevate these issues in this Black August of the connection between, this mass incarceration, the denial of voting rights, and even the denial of voting rights for folks who haven't actually had their rights taken away, but folks are just trying to act like they don't have those rights because they're in jail. I was talking to somebody the other day about this brother who's Mississippi, 16 years old, been in jail for 550 days, right? But hasn't been charged. And so, we got, it's similar to like a Cleve Browder type situation. We have all kinds of folks that are in jails, have yet to be convicted of anything, but are being denied, their voting rights. They're being denied their access to this fundamental piece that's an important part of building power, right? Building power right there in their communities. So in this Black August, we're trying to raise the flag, right? Sound the alarm around these connections between this electoral power building strategy and the ongoing abuses, the ongoing continuation of the 13th Amendment, or denial of the 13th Amendment, in the sense that we're having rights denied because of the so-called, commission of crimes. And so raising those issues, and then also raising the connections in the sense of what's going on right now in terms of the prison population and the coronavirus pandemic, right? Where we know that there are several hotspots, right? That there are several areas which this virus is spreading and just decimating lives. Part of that is in nursing homes, but the other major hotspot is in these prisons. And state after state, county after county are failing to do anything to protect the lives of, again, brothers and sisters that are behind the wall, and in some cases being exposed to at rates that are like 80% infection rates in some of these prisons. So all these issues intersect with ongoing mass incarceration, the denial of rights, the denial and putting it life at risk, life because of health issues, and this overall aspect of how we engage and how we build power to fight against all of these issues. And so, in this Black August, that's the way that we're framing, these connections between, again, prison issues, mass incarceration, civic engagement, building power, and demanding our human rights.
Cliff, real quick, you were quoted, I think maybe on the Hill in the newspaper on the Hill. And, one of the things, man, that, and I just want to tell you this publicly that I appreciate about you is not only your humility in this work, but the fact that you continue to try to bring and amplify our perspective as, revolutionary organizers, so that, because I don't know that what other advocate for voting rights, and that's a very narrow box to put you in, because I'm not claiming that box for you, but what other advocate for voter rights would raise Black August on a national platform? And so I just want to give thanks, brother, for you being consistent in doing that and letting, sharing our political ideology across a lot of different spectrums and spaces that, some of us, aren't going to get access to, we're not going to ever set foot in. And so talk about just briefly the importance of being able to give those perspectives in some of these different, on some of these different platforms.
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked that, because I was trying to write an article, an op-ed about some of this Joe Biden, vice presidential Black woman and all that stuff. And, you get people that will try to mainstream your stuff, whether it's an article that you're writing or an interview that you're doing on some radio or TV or whatever. And, my position is, look, this attention and this ability to amplify, it may not last forever, right? So while it lasts, I gotta make it. I gotta keep it real. I gotta be true to my background, my teachers, my mentors like Baba Kwame and so many others, and just speak the truth. I always I believe in brother Amilcar Cabral. He said, "Tell no lies, promise no easy victories," and that's been one of the things I try to live by. No matter what the forum is, what's the point in having a mic if you're going to use the mic to just lie to our folks, or to not speak the authentic truth? We got an obligation when we get access in those spaces, and you do the same thing when when you get access on some of these cases or whatever. We got an obligation to just speak the truth and to speak for those that don't get those opportunities. And so that's one of the things that I've really, and I thank you for noticing, I've really tried to be consistent on that, no matter what the forum is, no matter what the newspaper, whatever the station or whatever, I'm gonna speak it. And it's kind of like what Zayd said, when he was talking about the music, right? How part of his function with the music is to sneak the message in. And that's very much the way that, I try to approach this work, that we're in some of these community spaces. It might be a town hall, it might be a church or whatever, but, I very much consider part of my task is to sneak a message in so that folks, whether they know it or not, subliminally, they're always hearing a little bit of self-determination. They're always hearing a little bit of resistance. They're always hearing a little bit of self-governance, right? They're always hearing a little bit of the ballot or the bullet, right? Because, Brother Malcolm said, it's okay to use this vote. We just can't be chumps in how we use it. We got to be politically mature in how we use it. So anyway, I just try to be, I really do try to be intentional about being consistent and just being unafraid to just kind of speak from our history, always centering that history. Because as long as we do that and speak truth, then what weapon can be used against us?
Man, brother, I You got me beating on my chest, physically but mentally as well. That's and I want to I'm gonna turn it over to Marty. I just wanted to say something really to you and to all of I see Brother Fred there. Brother Fred has been in this, Fred Parham been in the movement for a long, long time, and our work, even working within Let Us Make Man, we saw and continue to see Let Us Make Man as providing us access to young men, and being able to give them those revolutionary, self-determining, self-governance nuggets. But I want to just say this, that brother Eddie Conway and Baba Kwame Kalimara and Cliff Albright and Imario Badeli and Shokwe Lumumba and Zayd Malik were all right. We were all right, and we've always been right. And we've had to just maintain, and the masses of our people in their spirit know that what's being raised is right. It's just a question of whether or not we can be successful. But they know fundamentally we have been right about self-determination, about reparations, about self-governance. And so when you see the NFL saying that Colin Kaepernick took the knee and we apologize now, they should be apologizing to the Black Panther Party, who had to say in October 1966 that we want to immediate end the police brutality. They should be apologizing for and freeing every Black political prisoner who had to fight against police brutality. And so all I wanted to do is just for us to publicly affirm that we haven't been wrong, we haven't been off. It has not all been for naught. Those lives, those sacrifices, we've been right. And now history is proving that we're right. So, Brother Marty, I'm gonna turn it to you, man, because I'm just I'm overwhelmed, man. I'm overwhelmed because the sacrifices. There you go, Fred.
I know. What's that, Fred? What's that you putting up there? I can't see it because
you gotta tell him to unmute himself.
Unmute it, Fred.
Hey, man, this is the Art of Leadership by Overton Shaka. My heroes are in here. Bobby Mari, RNA 11, free the land.
Free the land. Hey, man, so I'm going to move to a question here in a second for the panel, but I just want to piggyback on what you were saying, Malik. Unequivocally, we as a people have been right. And unequivocally, we have had to stand on their righteousness, right? In terms of you getting beat over the head. A lot of people change their mind, right? You get beat over the head, you get oppressed, and next thing you know, you start changing your mind and start going in the direction of the oppressor, right? But those of us that have been watching and understand our history, even if you understand it just a little bit, then you know that we've been right in this. And today, where we are today, with the things that are going on in this world, Mali has said this in past. He said, we are winning. And right now we are in a position to win because people are acknowledging that we have been right. So having this panel here today of I'll just say it, righteous brothers, righteous men, righteous Black men has been moving and inspiring. So I thank y'all for that. One of the questions that I wanted to ask, though, for those who don't know, because we're hoping what we do with Black Men Lab is we hope that kind of what Brother Cliff touched on a little bit is that we are, subliminally touching and giving them information they wouldn't normally get. But one of the things that I want to ask the panel is, what is the observation of Black August for you? What should people be doing? So I'll start with you, Brother Eddie Conway. What is Black August in terms of what do you do to observe Black August? I want to be able to give people something tangible to walk away with that have never done it. You're on mute, Brother Conway.
Okay, wait a minute. Doug, be quiet. I think what's important is to study and learn. Here, Chuck A. To study, to learn. But for me, every day is Black August. For me, for the last 55 years, every day is Black August. And my suggestion is that every day do something to help change the plight of your people, to help develop a movement that will bring liberation, whether it's going out organizing the votes, whether it's doing positive hip hop, or whether it's having the Black Man Lab, or whether it's, I was going to say not fucking around coalition, but every person should do whatever they can. Do whatever they can. Maintain their family. That's an important piece. Maintain your family, interact with them, but give something every day for our liberation. To me, that's the honor of Black August. And with 1 month, it doesn't get it.
Right.
It should be 365. But if you only do it 1 month, then do something every day during that month.
Well, I think that it becomes habit forming though also, right? So like one of the things that I'm doing is fasting. And from the beginning of the month today, I've been fasting. Well, now it's easy for me. So I don't even think twice about it. And I think that it'll probably stay with me as I move forward. Baba Kwame, what about you? What do you do to observe or suggestions? We want to give people some actionable things that they can do to observe Black August.
Well, the easy thing is just to give up something in terms of sacrifice in remembrance of our ancestors. That's the easy thing. But you had asked in terms of my own personal practice. Well, I do it all. I study, I do physical training, and I do the fast. I also, outside of Black August, I fast every Monday, and I'm doing that with the sisters and brothers who are part of the self-defense collectives in which I'm a part of. But the key is, as Brother Eddie had talked about, is that we have to keep in mind that we've been involved in a protracted people's war, and we have to keep our eyes on the prize. So when Cliff was talking about self-determination, the reality is that we recognize that movements have ebb and flows, but we have to be consistent in terms of putting our agenda out there and not allowing people to forget. Because if people forget, then when we have some form of seemingly victory, it takes the wind out of our sails, and we can't allow the wind to be taken out of our sails. That's why it's important to understand that we have to think strategically, but we also have to think tactically. Now, before I pass it on, I do want to share something. Brother Zayd had talked about his godmother, Nahanda Abiadun. And I wanted to quote something from her relative to Black August. I think it's relevant. She says that Black August is a tool to raise the consciousness of young people, to train to be conscious of their rights. There's an old adage, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So as Cliff talked about with Amilcar Cabral, tell no lies, claim no easy victories. There are a number of axioms that we have to look at. There are a number of sheroes and heroes that we have to study. When Brother Fred put up that book, there was unfortunately only one woman in the middle of that picture, and that was Ella Baker. We need to study Ella Baker's techniques and understand that when we are moving amongst the people, we have to be humble and understand that there is indigenous leadership. So when they were doing, Lowndes County that Cliff was talking about, they empowered the people there. So when you deal with the Black Panther Party, power to the people, it's all about power to the people. It's our job to empower these young people because this is a intergenerational struggle, but also we need to be very clear. We have to be also make certain that we are operating, as my sister Aminata Moja would say, revolution ain't happening without women. So Black Men Lab, yes, let's do our thing, but understand too that women have to be on an equal level, an egalitarian level with us as we struggle to win this war.
Absolutely, Bob. I 100% agree. And that's, one of the things that we do at Black Man Lab is have that level of understanding that we don't do this just by ourselves, right? And our young people need to understand that we understand that, women have been, the mothers of our civilization for a long time. And we wouldn't be where we are without them. So we have to have that level of connection. So thank you for that. Brother Zayd, can you jump back in here and give us some of your observations for Black August?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, for Black August, I just turned up, man. Generally speaking, I mean, typically you're supposed to fast from sun up to sundown, so that's what you should do. It's really just about putting something on yourself that you normally wouldn't do any other month, that you want to practice your discipline. So for me, I just use it as a springboard for the rest of the year to practice my discipline. We turn up, if I'm doing 10 push-ups, now I'm doing 15. If I, read 30 minutes, now we reading 45 to an hour. As far as, what's written and how it's supposed to go, you're supposed to fast from sun up to sundown, refrain from, boastful, loud behavior. So, you're not, yelling and screaming. If, you a rah-rah type of dude, be rah-rah every other month, but in remembrance and in honor of, our brothers and sisters in jail, we want to calm down this month. So it's just about remembrance and about, doing something actively to show that you're thinking about your brothers and sisters that are incarcerated. So again, we fasting, we working out more, we reading more, we engaging folks more, we talking to people about our struggle more, everything more. Black August is about being more disciplined, and the whole G about it is it can't do nothing but serve to help you, and that's the beauty of it. So just in terms of Black August, I think, folks that are on this panel or, folks that are tapped into this panel right now, just about sharing it and practicing it with, 3 or 4 of your homies, grab, 3 or 4 of your homies and say, let's do this thing I heard about called Black August. What we going to do? We got some friends that's in jail, and we want to make sure that, we doing stuff out here to keep their spirit strong spiritually. I mean, Black August is a spiritual idea as well, because what we doing is we doing stuff together, unified in a unified way to show love to brothers that are locked up. You know what I mean? So, sure. And they can feel that energy. They can feel that spirit when we doing these things. So when we practicing our discipline, and the biggest key is to make sure that we doing these things in honor of our brothers and sisters that are locked up. We giving them power. We giving them energy. We giving people like Matulu, who's in jail, who needs our energy, right? We giving them that spiritual energy. We thinking about them. We doing these things for them. And then we got to remember, it's a lot of brothers and sisters that's locked up, and then it's a lot of resentment there based on, them maybe going to jail for reasons that wasn't necessarily political, right? And so it's a way that, brothers that are locked up, right, can re-energize themselves and show spiritual love back to the community. If you went to jail for something that hurt the community, you go to jail, you practice Black August, you change your life, and it's a way that you could definitely, in the month of August, give something back spiritually to your people that's, that's not locked up with you. So just generally speaking, it's about just turning up, making sure that you espouse that connection with your people that you lost. If you're not, revolutionary minded, or you don't believe in Black August, or you don't believe in what we're talking about on this call, you can definitely believe in discipline. And that's what I love about Black August the most, is that's a practical thing. It's something that you can, use to portray functional unity. It's something that you could do with just your community that can bring y'all together. It's something that you can look forward to, like I said, just turn up on your discipline. So for me, like I said, I just add a couple more sets. I read more. Right now I'm reading Frantz Fanon, and I started this book group, book club, whatever have you, on my Instagram page. Tap into my Instagram page, Outlaw RBG. And I'm just, inviting folks to read Frantz Fanon, Black Skin, White Mask with me. That's what we're reading right now to the end of Black August. We're doing 2 chapters a month. And I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? That's nothing I've ever done. But this month, we reading Frantz Fanon, and we're going to finish it, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to be better revolutionaries because of it. So stuff like that we do.
And what, brother, if you could drop in the chat, drop your Instagram so we can post it. Maybe we get more people to join. All right.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you, man.
If you know, appreciate y'all, man. Go grab that book, Black Skin, White Mask, Outlaw RBG. I'm gonna put it in there though.
All right, appreciate that, and really, basically, you know, what you were talking about there is we're building resistance, and we're also building resilience in Black August, and that needs to be what we're doing, you know, across the board all the time. And I think, Cliff, I'm gonna bring you in. That's exactly what you were kind of touching on earlier, is that resilience piece of just being able to add something, do something all the time. We're doing it for Black August, but realistically, that needs to be something that you know, kind of bleeds into the rest of our year as well. So, Cliff, if you could join us.
Yeah, you know, I'm just kind of like the other brothers who have spoken, you know, trying to mix all three of those things, you know, exercising more regularly and consistently, studying, in particular reading, some stuff, you know, some books that I've been meaning to get to all year long, but, you know, no time like Black August to commit to making it happen. And then the fasting piece, and probably in that order is like from my strength to my weakness. And so, but, you know, just trying to, you know, just keep it real, just trying to do more, kind of like Zayd said, just do more, you know, get better, get more discipline at each of those. And then the fourth piece is kind of like what we were just talking about, like just helping to spread the word, like every day to teach somebody about Black August in some form or fashion, you know. And so if we can do that, one of the things that I love about it is that, you know, we're always trying to fight this, you know, these notions, these American notions of individualism. And one of the things I like about Black August is that, you know, in some ways it is about the individual, right? It's about the ways that we better ourselves, but it's about that bettering in a collective way, right? It's about being a part of a community that is kind of like you said, you know, we're doing a book club where we are collectively, you know, trying to get better as individuals. And so, and I think that's that beauty of the, you know, that balance and that's the circular nature of everything that we do in our struggles. And so, you know, that's the way that I try to approach it.
Right, it's that every finger on the hand has a purpose, right? And you strengthen each finger, then you make a strong fist, right? And that's really what we're about. What we have to be about for our future, man. So, listen, Molly, this has been super powerful. We're up against the clock here. One of the things that we normally talk about is our habits, rituals, and disciplines. But you guys have kind of touched on that. That's the level of importance of what we do on a daily basis is our habits, rituals, and disciplines. So you guys have touched on that. I don't think we need to do any deeper of a dive in that. But Molly, I had to back over you so that we can get to, you know, closing ourselves out here because we're up against the clock.
Yeah, no doubt. Man, just an honor, a real honor that you all, we got Baba Eddie Conway from Baltimore. We got all the way from the West Coast out in LA. We got Zayd that came through. And then here in the Atlanta metro area, we got Baba Kwame and Brother Cliff. So we went east, west, you know, south. And I just give thanks that you all would take time to share. And again, for us to build during Black August. So anyone that's watching or will watch this, Black Man Lab is observing Black August. We've been fasting, encouraging brothers to at least do 100 push-ups. If you already do some, do another 100. We're trying to get 100 push-ups in the day. You don't have to do them all at once. We're trying to get you 50 crunches or stomach exercises of some point. If you already do some, do an extra 50. This is all about doing a little bit more. And then we're also trying to get this reading going. So please just be checking our Instagram as well. It sounds like Zayd got us already moving. And so I'm gonna pick up Frantz Fanon. I got the book. So now you can just spark me to read it. And I've been holding it for about 20 years. You did? So that's what we do. So we just gonna reach out and grab that. So we appreciate everybody. So we close in a tradition. And I think it's important, as Baba Kwame mentioned, that nothing gets done without sisters, right? This is a collective, intergenerational, across class, across gender, across who you love, who you sleep. We across that. We on some all new African Black lives matter, and we organizing in that. And so Mama Injiri Al-Ghani, Queen Mother Injiri Al-Ghani, gave us a ritual to close out meetings. And we would link hands and we would say, I'm a link in this chain and it won't break here. So we're gonna ask everybody to take yourself off of mute. We're gonna link arms the way we would normally do physically when we're in the space. So we're all linking arms. And if you would repeat after me, I am a link in this chain.
I am a link
in this
chain.
In this chain.
And it won't break here.
And it won't
break here.
I am a link in this chain.
I am
a link in this chain.
And it won't break here.
and
it won't break.
Break here.
We are links in this chain.
We
are
links in this chain.
We won't break here.
And we won't break here.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Brothers, thank y'all.
Man, thank you, brothers. We
Salute,
appreciate
Baba
you so
Kwame.
much.
Take care. Stay blessed. Appreciate you.
Stay strong, Baba.
Be safe, y'all.
Brother Cliff, appreciate you. Brother
Appreciate
Eddie,
all of y'all.
salute, Baba.
Good to see y'all. Good to see y'all.
Saeed, peace, bro. Be
Peace.
safe.
Peace, bro. Appreciate you.